But yeah, so maybe now's a good time to kind of discuss my current progress through the Eldar range and my models here. Um, yeah, so let's do that. So not too long ago, I started these Eldar jet bike models, and it was smooth sailing. I felt like I was going along, making good progress with this stuff, practicing some new techniques like not new techniques, but new techniques to me, things like wet blending and stuff. And I had been working on this back area as well as all the detail underneath the hood here. I did not, hey Bacon, how's it going? I did not attach the hood to this model. And so it's, again, this is probably a little too hard to see, but underneath here, there's all this detail that I painted in and then placed the hood on. But yeah, generally I was feeling pretty good about these models until I got to the part where I had to place the hood on and start painting the hood. The issue that I was having was basically wrapping my head around how to do wet blending with a very large and smooth surface like this. And again, this is something that I did offline, off stream. I didn't do it on stream, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I was I was like getting kind of frustrated, and I was doing kind of a bad job at first. I've gotten to a point where I'm much more happier with these models now, but it was a bit of a task to get to this point, and at times I was like, ooh, did I mess these things up? I don't know. But for people that don't know what wet blending is, and again, for anyone watching in the future or now that is aware of this process, I must apologize, but I do have people that are in here that aren't too familiar with these techniques, so I'll just kind of discuss it super quickly. Wet blending is a technique where you're gonna be putting paint onto the model that's like really, really fresh, right? It's almost like you're slopping on the paint, like, and you're kind of like smashing it in there, and then you take a secondary color, like the color that you want to blend, and again, also very wet, and you're kind of like mixing the colors of the blend on the surface of the model itself. So normally when I paint, I'll do all the mixing here on the wet palette, right? So, you know, for example, I'll take my light blue and my dark blue and then mix it to the medium blue here and then apply to the model. But you can get a much smoother result so long as you're better with the technique, if you can achieve wet blending here. So basically mixing the colors on the surface of the model itself. The issue that I was having was, for one thing, I was using these brushes. I was using these tiny little brushes. These are like sort of my standard working brushes to do base coats and stuff. But for a large surface like this, it's kind of a bad idea, right? Because as you're creating your brush strokes, right, it's gonna end up being kind of visible, the brush strokes, just because the brush is so small. So in hindsight, I should have used something bigger, and I do have bigger brushes, kind of like this one here. This is a nice chunky boy of a brush that I could use, and I possibly might use. Actually, I did end up using this brush later. This is actually one of my art brushes, you know, for art with a capital A and illustration, smelling your own farts kind of art. It's for watercolors, but it's actually really good for. I found that it's quite good for acrylic paint, so long as you thin down the acrylic paint to the consistency of watercolors. I also have this brush here, which I'm planning on using at some point, possibly for my Eldar grav tank, Falcon grav tank. Again, this is a nice big chunky boy that can cover a lot of surfaces. Like, so I mean, yeah, it's a matter of like whoosh, 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 rather than using this tiny little guy and all the brush strokes. The other issue I was having was I had base coated this model with the dark color first, and then I was intending to wet blend from the dark color to the light color, and my understanding is that it's far easier to actually do it the other way around. So So to base coat with the lighter color, and then wet blend to the darker color. That's also kind of part of the reason why I was having a bad time, and I'm taking steps to correct that for my next model here. If you look here, this is the Viper jet bike, and I'm still in the process of base coating this, getting a solid base coat color. But yeah, I'm starting with a much lighter color here. And actually, the base coat for this model was a very light gray, or rather the primer was a very light gray, as opposed to this, which was like a very, very dark gray. So it kind of, all those things combined to create a very difficult experience for me to do some wet blending for this, and it kind of ended up like, if you looked at it from far away, it would blend pretty well, like visually, using your eyes. But if you looked at it real close, you can see kind of like, it wasn't very, the transitions weren't very smooth. Now I've gotten to a point where it's a little better, and that's thanks to doing some glazing. That's a different technique that kind of you might want to use hand in hand with layering or wet blending. And glazing is just using a very light, a very, very thin kind of consistency of paint to kind of go over the model, and you're going to be sort of finessing it, sort of pushing the paint around such that, like if I had like a blue glaze, I'd kind of start here, like my brush is filled with the blue color, and I would kind of push the paint towards the back, right? Because it's going to end up being lighter at the where I start and darker where I end. And so there's a bit of technique involved for wet blending, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so now I'm at a point where I'm pretty happy with these models as far as the blending goes. But it took a while to get there, to be honest. And now we'll practice again some more with this one, but again, this time trying to take the lessons learned from this and apply it to a new model. There's something else I wanted to mention really quick. Let's see. Here we are. So in Bacon's stream, the last time he streamed, he was talking about decals. He was putting some decals onto his frame arm girl, or rather the Lady Ludens, and I was watching it, and I thought to myself, oh wow, don't I have decals? And I do. I actually have a lot more than this, but these are the decals for these jet bikes, and I'm probably going to put something on here, like right on the hood, but I haven't really decided what exactly. And also, I'd like to do some kind of freehand sort of design decorative element, maybe a yellow stripe. I've painted yellow stripes here on the back fins. I don't know what you want to call these things. I painted these on all my models, including all of these guys, which you guys might remember from last month. I completed all of these chaps last month, and a number of them most of them have the little yellow stripe now, the little decorative yellow stripe, the little Adidas swoosh. And I think I'd like to add another one of those elements to the hood of these vehicles, and then place a decal on top. Now, the craft world, to get into the lore of the Eldar, this color scheme that I'm using is based off of one of their official craft worlds. Those are like sort of the floating planet cities that the Eldar live on now, most of the Eldar, or Aeldari. And so the color scheme here is supposed to be from aeldari. And some of these decals are representative of aeldari, and I think it's this one, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's this one here, the sword through a crescent moon. I think that's aeldari, and this one here, I think is Ulthwé, and one of them is going to be Beltan. This is Beltan, and yeah, I don't recall the names of the other ones, as Azuramin or something, and there's like lightning, and yeah, so we get 3 of these, one for each jet bike. And oh, let's move these actually really quick. Let's quickly show off right here. We've got this is one of the gunners, or the support crew for the anti-grav tank, and I've done a little yellow lining along the back here, just a little freehand. Did that. So yeah, all these guys are done. Pretty happy about that. Mostly done, pretty much. And this large decal sheet is for the grav tank, and you have a lot of options here. There's just so many little icons that you can use, and again, we have the icon here for my craft world, as well as many other interesting icons. There's something called kill markings here. You can add these maybe every time you kill certain enemy types. You can like add it as you're playing along. Pilot badges, a lot of really great details here, which I will have to think about where I want to put them. I don't want to overdo it, to be honest. And so, oh, another quick little thing I noticed here. It says Copyright Games Workshop 1994. So this this decal sheet is from 1994, and this one here is actually from 1997. So this is pretty old as well. Bacon. Honestly, now I've tried using Waterslide. I think I prefer them over regular stickers. Yeah. So I would tend to agree with you there, Bacon. The result is it just looks a lot better. It feels a lot more integrated into the model. With a sticker, you're always going to see that slight, like, little elevation, right? Like, because the thickness of a sticker is just that little millimeter thick that you can kind of see it above, like sort of placed above the surface of the model. And also with decals, you can have clear decals, and you can see the color of the model underneath. Well, I guess there's clear stickers as well. But yeah, about that, Bacon. So we'll probably transition into another topic here. But yeah, I was at a hobby store today, but unfortunately, I forgot that I probably should have bought Mr. What is it called? Mr. Soft Mark and Mr. Set Mark or something like that. I probably should have bought one of those or both of those, but that can wait, because that'll make the decals look better, right? But I've never used those before. I've always just kind of used Mark Softer and Mark Setter. That's correct. I have one example of a decal that I've used on my model here. This guy. This is sort of like the captain of my Eldar squad, and might be a little hard to see, but on his forehead he has a symbol there, and yeah, that's just a tiny little decal that I placed, and I didn't use any of that stuff, which I'll probably have to get at some point, but I think it'll probably look better if I add some of that stuff, the softer, I think, which will melt. You were saying it kind of like melts the decal, so it looks a little more integrated or something. But yeah, maybe I'll get that next time. Just looks really nice. There's a lot of people in the Warhammer world that they actually forego the use of decals and instead just freehand, which is to say, like literally just paint by hand the same thing, because the result is even better if you're capable of doing it. I'm not. I don't think I could do it. Actually, you know what? Back in the day, I did a lot of hand painting myself on shields, but for the sake of convenience, I'd probably stick with some decals whenever possible. Bacon, I still a little conflicted about the softer. My chat says we don't need it unless it's on a curvy surface, but some videos recommend them since it further blends the decal into the model. Yeah, the curvy surface aspect I wasn't all that aware of, but the blending aspect is the thing that I kept on hearing about from the Warhammer side, when people when I was listening to podcasts and people talking about using the softer. So yeah, I mean, have you done like a test where you had a model, you took it apart and you put the decal on without the softer, and then the same decal with the softer? You could kind of do a test and see how it looks. But yeah, so at this hobby store, I bought a bunch, not a bunch of stuff, but between Night Trap and myself, we ended up buying a decent amount of stuff, but I didn't buy that. But, you know, there's always next time. So yeah, just a quick little update on my Eldar guys. And yeah, we might work on some more of this stuff very soon. But yeah, the army's coming along really well. I'm really excited about that. I took a picture of all my dudes together on Instagram, and it's just like, I just had this awesome, satisfied feeling that I haven't had for a really long time. Like, oh man, there's like, it's my army, guys. It's coming together. It's so cool.